Hello, everybody. It's Michael McPherson, and it's February 10th. It's the 10th day of Black History Month, and this is my 10th post. I appreciate you watching, listening, tuning in. Today, I'm not going to use my favorite source, but I'm going to talk about it, which is 366 Days of American History, U.S. American History Affirmations compiled by Michael D. Woods. It's a calendar. Each day has a figure from Black history, U.S. American history, but I'm not going to use that today. Today, I'm going to talk about two facts or two events, two things that happened on February 10th. The first one, I want to give a shout out to Leontyne Price. Ms. Price is 96. She is still with us. She was born on February 10th, 1927. I'll tell you a little bit about her, and you really need to check her out. I'm not a big opera guy, but I have heard her, and from what I've heard of different operas, the little bit I've listened to, she's as good as anybody, and clearly from what she has done, she's better than most. And then we'll talk briefly about the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It passed in the House of Representatives by a vote of 290 to 130. And after 12 days, that was after 12 days of debate and voting on 125 amendments. Wow, that's all by itself, 125 amendments. All right, let's talk about Miss Leontyne Price. Her full name is Mary Violet Leontyne Price, born February 10th, 1927 in Laurel, Mississippi. She is an American soprano who was the first African-American soprano to receive international acclaim. From 1961, she began a long association with the Metropolitan Opera, where she was the first African-American to be a leading performer. She regularly appeared at the world's major opera houses, including the Royal Opera House, San Francisco Opera House, Lyric Opera House of Chicago, and La Scala. Now, at La Scala, she was also the first African-American to sing a leading role, and she was particularly renowned for her performances in the title role in Verdi's Aida. And that is something that I am definitely going to listen to because I have not. I just have heard her sing, on a little bit on a show or maybe an award show or something. It's been so long, but that I'm checking out. Let me get out of the way so that you can really get a look at Ms. Price. So next time you see her, you know who she is. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the 1964 Civil Rights Act. The act passed February 10th in the House. It passed in the Senate on July 19th, and then President Johnson signed it into law on July 2nd. Now, when we talk about civil rights and the civil rights movement, many times people tend to only think about Black people. This view is misguided, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 tells the story. When you read about the act, you'll realize the enormous impact the law has on our society even today. Now, doing the research, I stopped at this website called Investopedia, and it really does a pretty good breakdown of the act. So, the 1964 Civil Rights Act bans discrimination on the basis of race, color, the two you expect, but also religion, sex, and national origin. And it does this in different categories. It addresses voting rights, employment, public accommodations, education, and more. The act has 7 what they call titles. They're like sections. The 1 through 7, titles 1 through 7 address discrimination across the categories I listed. And then titles 8 through 11 put out provisions for monitoring adherence to the law and how to enforce the law. Now, I wanted to speak about specifically one of the titles, Title 7. Title 7 was one of the most far-reaching sections of the Act because it addresses equal employment opportunities by prohibiting discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin by federal government employees or private sector employees with 15 or more employees. So that's a lot of people it's impacting right now. It also established the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission that many of us know as the EEOC. Now, on top of that, a series of laws in the 60s and the 70s clarified and expanded the discrimination ban to include age and disability discrimination. They also applied it to housing and voting rights. Now, of course, the effectiveness of the agencies that's supposed to monitor and ensure enforcement changes, depending on, who's in office, who puts an emphasis on it, etc. And probably most importantly, laws don't really can't change everything. People have to change. So we can argue to what extent it's been effective or not, but clearly we all know that there are things you would get in trouble for doing in terms of discriminating against people when it comes to jobs and etc. You can't do those things anymore. So it had a huge impact. However, we should ask ourselves, why is it that the dominant historical narrative does not highlight or simply even recognize that all of us are freer and by law afforded recognition of our rights because of the civil rights movement and this act? The civil rights movement was a movement about justice for everyone. Black people's movement for freedom has been about liberation for everyone. It always has been. It's just how it's presented in the narrative of American history, of US American history, that focuses it just on Black people, which it should be in terms of the struggle, but not the impact. Because when you start understanding that our liberation is wrapped up in each other, and that these movements is what's going to create us being free as a society. I mean, truly free, where all of us have enough food and respected and all the things that you have equal under the law. Then we'll be able to get there. Dr. King knew this. That's one of the reasons he was trying to start the Poor People's Campaign. So it's not really a secret. It's kind of like an open secret. And narratives are really important in terms of how it creates how we think about things. So don't fall in the trap of only thinking about Black people when you think about the civil rights movement. Look at all the civil rights that we have, and how, and especially look at this act and the other laws that came after it, because it tells the full story. And it tells a story that we all need to stick together. All right, but that's the end of today's look at US history, African American, Black history, and I hope to see you tomorrow.